when people say Irish music, what we have found in our years of doing this, it means all sorts of different things. So just by saying Irish music or even traditional Irish music, it could mean something in like, and this isn't by our definition, this is just the definition of people who have used terminology like this, but it could mean Dropkick Murphys type stuff. It could mean just instrumental tunes. It could mean Riverdance. It could mean, like a big stage production or orchestral thing like that.
That was Corey Purcell of the band Poor Man's Gambit. Hello and welcome to episode 125 of the Irish Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Becker. My guest on the show today will be Deirdre Lockman and Corey Purcell of Poor Man's Gambit, the traditional Irish band from Northeastern Pennsylvania. We'll talk about the importance of keeping traditional Irish music alive and a bunch of other topics. Let's get started. Thanks for being here, Deirdre and Corey.
Hey, Rick, we're doing well. How are you?
Doing excellent. So, first of all, why don't you let everybody know what part of the country you are based out of and where you're performing most of your shows, and then we'll move from there.
Sure, yeah. So Deirdre and I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we play pretty much anywhere that we get hired to play. So quite often we do a lot of regional stuff. So we play at Longwood Gardens, which is in Kennett Square. It's like a big botanical garden. We play at a pub in Bethlehem on a semi-regular basis called McCarthy's Red Stag Pub and Whiskey Bar. We do kind of concerts up and down the East Coast. We do some festivals. Kind of here and there, so all over the place, but people can find out where we're going to be at our website, which is poormansgambit.com. We try to keep that relatively up to date with upcoming shows.
And I like that you are in that northeastern section of Pennsylvania, because I think that's an underrated hotbed of Irish culture. We talk about the big cities a lot of Philadelphia, Baltimore, Boston, New York. We know about the Irish communities there, but up in the Allentown and the Scranton area of Pennsylvania, that's a huge hotbed of Irish culture. The coal mines, so many of the workers in the anthracite coal mines were Irish Americans, Irish immigrants. So do you find that you have a real base already in place for this kind of music?
Yeah, actually. And we do have a connection with Scranton as well. We're actually playing the Scranton Black Diamond Pipe Band's 30th anniversary. And so we've played for a couple events of theirs in the past. So they're a great group of people, and they represent Scranton well. And
how important do you think it is to continue to keep these cultural music's alive and to try to make sure that, maybe you're taking influences from other places as well, but to keep Irish music going and to keep these cultural touchstones as vibrant and as active as ever?
I think we would both agree that it's pretty important. We do music full time, so we're super lucky in that regard, that we get to, make a career out of it. But even more than that, music is what brought us together. So we just celebrated our second wedding anniversary, and we met because of the band. I needed a substitute fiddle player, and I had never met her before. She'd never met me before, even though we'd lived kind of close to each other our whole lives and been kind of in the same circles, but just never at the same time. So, we have the music to thank for our relationship. It's a great community, kind of just something that keeps everybody together. So even people who don't play the music can come out and appreciate it. We host a session, it's, let's see, not quite every other week. It's second and fourth Tuesdays. But that's an opportunity for people who aren't full-time or professional musicians, who may just do it as a hobby as they have time to come out and play with other traditional musicians, specifically traditional Irish music. And then there's also a bunch of people who come out just to listen and support it. Some people bring their kids and they like to, get them early exposure to that. And music is really just kind of a community base, I would say.
Yeah, and Irish music, we've got a lot of great Irish festivals in the area, but they're spread out over the year. So it's nice to have places like the McCarthy's Red Stag Pub, who is trying to keep Irish culture alive throughout the year. And we're really grateful that we're able to run a session there to keep the public engaged and aware of Irish culture. So that when the festivals come around, there's a good turnout and it's a lot
Irish
of fun.
music. It's not just for St. Patrick's Day.
And Deirdre, you have been promoting Irish culture since a very young age. It says, in your bio that you were doing traditional Irish step dancing from the age of 5. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my mom's family emigrated to the United States in the late 40s. And then she was born here. So all of her older siblings were born in Ireland, but then she was born here. So she had a lot of strong ties to that culture. And she grew up playing the accordion and played a lot of the Irish American songs that were popular at the time. And then when she met my dad, who's not Irish at all, but he's a musician, he fell in love with Irish music and just made that a big part of his life. So when they had kids, we all started learning instruments and playing Irish music together. Along the way, they decided to get us step dancing lessons. So I started dancing, when I was 4, when I was 5. I started taking violin lessons when I was 4. So I've just kind of done it my whole life.
And the Irish dancing doesn't stop there. Corey, you also took Irish dance as well, and you were engaged in that. And then you became a self-taught musician. How does one go about because I'll tell you what, as a novice, as somebody who plays a little bit of guitar, like if I have lessons and I'm sitting week after week with a teacher, I'll get a little better. But how do you just sit down there with no instruction and just teach yourself? You play a number of different instruments. So how does that go? How do you teach yourself how to do that?
Well, I'd say all music is based first off on rhythm. And so my parents got me involved in Irish step dancing from a very young age as well. So when I was 4, they had me go into classes very much against my will. I was not into it at all as a young kid. It took probably more than a decade for me to actually embrace it at all. But from there, I kind of had the tunes drilled into my head from 3 hours of dance practice a couple nights a week. You're just hearing not necessarily the same exact music, but often very similar music, sometimes the same exact music over and over and over and over while you're practicing. It just kind of worked its way into my head. My parents also had me heavily involved in extracurricular activities at school, so like concert band, marching band, choir, and things like that. So I did have kind of instruction in that way, I guess, but it wasn't anything close to Irish instruments. Like I played snare drum in marching band, and I was in the percussion section in concert band. So when I turned 16, I decided I was going to play an instrument because I wanted to, and I kind of like dabbled with other things, but I wanted to buy a serious instrument. So by a serious instrument, to me as a 16-year-old, that meant a tenor banjo or a button accordion, because what 16-year-old doesn't want to play one of those two instruments? And I'm not quite sure why, but I went with the button accordion, and I don't regret it. I was just wondering the other day how different my life would be if I would have gone the route of the tenor banjo. Tenor banjo is still one of my favorite instruments, but I bought myself my first real 2-row button accordion for my 16th birthday, and kind of messed around with it and didn't make a whole lot of progress. My dad got me a lesson with a button accordion player from his old band, and the guy kind of showed me how to hold it, which was very different from the way that I had been holding it. And he showed me some basics of the instrument, which was super helpful. And from there, I'd say the secret is practicing 6 to 8 hours a day, because that was my life through most of high school.
It should be noted that both Corey and I were homeschooled, so we had unusual schedules that allowed for a lot of.
We had excess time at home.
Yeah, I think we both in high school we both spent lots and lots of time on our instruments.
Yeah.
So when I talk to a lot of Irish musicians, one of the things that tends to come up is forming a set. Do you find yourself, when you're putting together a set, that you want to play as much of your originals as possible, or do you have to mix in the traditional stuff that everybody is expecting to hear, or is it a combination of both?
We don't have a lot of originals. We do have some. They're all instrumentals, but the majority of our music is traditional. And then a portion of it is covers of modern songs in the traditional style. And then we have a few originals, which we try to work the originals in where we can. Some of the ones that were on your album have a lot of guest artists on them, so we're limited and can't always play those, the more complicated ones.
But do you find that it is a balancing act when you are putting together your set list for a show, because you do want people to see how you're different? Like, you do want them to hear your original things, but you also know that when somebody goes to see a traditional Irish band, they have certain expectations as well. Is that a balancing act, or do you just say, we're lucky enough to be doing this, so we're going to do kind of what we want?
Right. I mean, it's a good question. So first off, when people say Irish music, what we have found in our years of doing this, it means all sorts of different things. So just by saying Irish music, or even traditional Irish music, it could mean something in like, and this isn't by our definition, this is just the definition of people who have used terminology like this, but it could mean Dropkick Murphys type stuff. It could mean just instrumental tunes. It could mean Riverdance. It could mean, like a big stage production or orchestral thing like that.
First off,
bars, pub songs, rebel songs.
We don't do a lot of public bar gigs. We tend to do more concerts, festivals, and private gigs where people are hiring us because of our repertoire. So we're lucky in that respect that we don't get asked to do a lot of the common pieces, I think is what maybe you're asking. A lot of the expected songs when people think of Irish music. So we like to choose things that are off the beaten path, like traditional tunes, ones that we haven't written, or songs that we haven't written, but are not the most standard. On occasion, we do a gig where we're asked to play something, and if we can play it, we will. But in general, we choose a repertoire that's different. Yeah, it might be a little less heard.
And sometimes if it's a longer gig, like at Longwood Gardens, where we're playing for kind of 3 hours, we'll play primarily things of our choosing, and then we'll mix in some things that we think people might be expecting to hear more from like the pub song, or like St. Patrick's Day list, so to speak. So like the Black Velvet Band, Whiskey in the Jar. What else in that category?
Fields of Athenry.
Right, stuff like that. So yeah, not that we're like above it or anything. We just feel like there's so many opportunities to hear that music elsewhere, that like we try to find stuff that may not have been played, or play it in a different way, than focus on the same songs that everybody else is doing.
Well, and I would imagine that really helps you out when it comes to getting booked for festivals, because sometimes you'll go to an Irish festival and everybody's set list, you could almost copy and paste it. So yeah, that is nice that you are looking for maybe some deeper cuts, or some things that are traditional but don't make the rounds as much as some others. When you were talking about people having different definitions of, traditional Irish music, and you were saying, there's the Dropkick Murphys, there's river dance, there's pub tunes. How would you describe your sound as being maybe different from some of the other genres of traditional Irish music?
That's a good question. The label that we kind of apply to ourselves based off of how other bands describe themselves that we're similar to would be like progressive traditional, which sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but it's that we're playing traditional music in a modern or progressive style. So we do incorporate about 50% instrumental numbers. So there won't be any lyrics or songs on them. It's just, fiddle and accordion with, maybe a guitar and things. So that sets it apart right away from a lot of the other genres. So when it comes to like, at least our definition of pub songs, like Whiskey in a Jar, Black Velvet Band, Finnegan's Wake, or Orange and the Green, that sort of stuff, they're all songs. A lot of times they have like repeated choruses that people can sing along to. Not that songs that we do don't have choruses, but it's just very different from an instrumental thing.
And just a note about the instrumental stuff. Traditionally, they are often like everybody plays the same tune together, with little embellishments and little variations between each player. But we try to take that up a step, and we do a lot of harmonizing between the two instruments, the two melodic instruments. We will add some interesting things because traditionally the tunes were for dancers. We don't usually have dancers with us. So we make them interesting with different rhythm mix-ups and pauses, like breaks. And so I think that helps separate us from some other bands as well, just having the instrumentals a little more highly arranged.
And Deirdre, I see that you also are very active in teaching the fiddle. And I want to know, how active do you find the community is in having their kids learn the traditional Irish music? Do you find that kids are just, they're going to the guitar, they're going to the piano, or are kids really gravitating towards instruments like the fiddle?
I mean, me personally, I don't find that so much because teaching's not my primary income source. I mean, the band is what keeps us busy. So my teaching schedule fits in around that. And I don't teach a lot. I only ever have a couple students at a time. A lot of them are adults who are coming to me after retirement. They want to get into music because they have more time. Usually the kids, their parents were involved in Irish culture growing up, and they want to try and get their kids to continue that. And fiddle is definitely a popular choice when it comes to Irish music.
So, for example, like with the Irish Baseball Podcast and the Irish American Baseball Society where I work, we're very interested in making sure kids are picking up baseball and that it is not a sport that, goes away and dies and loses popularity because it's hard for kids to play it. And I'm wondering if, there are limitations in poor communities for baseball teams because the equipment's expensive. And I was wondering if you feel that there is enough interest in the new generation that traditional Irish music will have the chance to survive, that it will move to the next generation and people are trying to promote it, or are kids just going to Guitar Center and, learning to play Smoke on the Water, or,
Yeah. I would say it is a little tricky getting the younger generation involved. It's not a popular niche or a well-known niche. And being in the Lehigh Valley, we are a little bit smaller. Like there is a big Irish community in terms of Irish descendants that live here, but people actually engaged in the tradition, it's a much smaller circle. Unlike Philly and New York, they're not too far away, but
is it maybe something that you find when you're playing shows and you're having people who might be a little older going, that they're gravitating towards the traditional music more as they age than actually kids getting into it? Do you find that people maybe mature into it? You said a lot of your clients, a lot of your students are adults who are trying to get into it. So is this maybe a type of music that we don't worry if the kids aren't into it, because it is something that they might gravitate towards a little more as they age, as they realize the importance of their family, of their culture in their own lives?
it could be. Irish step dancing definitely has a draw for the younger generations. And that's something that unfortunately people tend to age out of. You can't dance forever, but you can play the music pretty much forever. So it could be that it's something that is an attraction to older generations. I grew up attending sessions, but I was definitely many years younger than everyone else that attended the sessions. And I wished that I had more peers my age, but it just was not the case. There are a few places. We have some great friends in Philly that are really trying hard to get they've been running it for years. It's called The Next Generation, and it's a group for young musicians to learn Irish music. And that has done well over the years. Here in the Lehigh Valley, there's some teachers that have done really well, worked hard, and gotten children involved. And we're hoping that by offering the session that we do at McCarthy's, that people younger than us will start to become aware of it and have an interest in learning.
That sounds great. I mean, because in the end, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that these art forms that we love continue to make it to the next generation. And when you do go to Irish festivals and you see the kids, I think that has to be really exciting for you. And you're seeing that you're playing to another generation, because it might be the older people that bring them there, but in the end, we're hoping that they're connecting with their heritage just as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids are always great to watch from the stage, because like if they're having a good time, they let everybody know it, and they'll just be like dancing around or making fun faces and stuff, or like waving their arms and stuff. You know, it's always great to see from the stage.
So as you play around and you're at these different festivals, who are some bands from the area that you think should also be getting some more attention? Like, obviously, you know, we're promoting your music, but we want people to hear about a lot of different things, and we want them to be aware about a lot of groups. So who are some bands that you play with on a regular basis that you think really should get that next step of exposure as well?
Are you familiar with the Byrne Brothers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those guys are great. We see them every once in a while on the festival circuit. How about the Drowsy Lads?
Yeah, I know a lot of them, but
okay.
I live not too far away from you, so I'm only about an hour and a half away from you. So I know a lot of these bands. I'm just trying to expose some of our listeners to some of them. So
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, they're both great acts. It all depends on what you're into. I mean, whenever we're playing at festivals, there's usually a couple bands that are similar to us, but then there's other bands that do all sorts of different stuff that are way different. Like Albanock is like a Scottish, tribal drum band with pipes. So you can check that out if you're into that sort of thing. Rory Makem is Tommy Makem's son. So from, Tommy Makem, the Clancy brothers. So he's doing all sorts of his dad's songs and all sorts of his own songs and other traditional songs. So if that's your thing, you can check that out.
The Celtic Classic is a big festival here. in Bethlehem in September. And they bring a whole variety of bands that encompass, the wide genre of what is Irish music.
As we wrap this up, if people are looking for where you're playing or to listen to your music, why don't you give them the website again and direct them where to go?
First off, you can go to poormansgambit.com, and that's going to be our website. We have a mailing list to sign up. You can sign up to get periodic updates on our activities and things we're doing. And then there's also going to be the list of upcoming shows where you can see us live in case we're going to be anywhere close to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Corey and Deirdre from Poor Man's Gambit. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I'm your host, Rick Becker, and this has been episode 125 of the Irish Baseball Podcast.